Welcome to the fourth and final module in a training series focused on implementing person-centered support in the community. As before, the 4 modules in the Tier 2 series build directly upon Tier 1 content. Module 8 focuses on decision support for advanced care and end-of-life planning. At the end of the module, we will ask you to take a brief knowledge assessment and a feedback survey. This will let us know some of what you have learned from the training, additional training needs, and how helpful you found the material for your job. In Module 8, our focus is on advanced planning. We stress the importance of addressing financial, legal, health, and end-of-life decisions as soon as possible so that the person with dementia can be involved in decision-making to the fullest extent possible. We will present resources that can assist people with dementia and their families with this planning. We will also describe end-of-life supports and services. Advanced planning is important for everyone, but particularly important for people with dementia. We are exploring the stories of Sarah, Martha, and Dennis. They experienced advanced planning in very different ways. Sarah began thinking about her plans soon after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. With support from the options counselor and her own desire not to burden her husband, she and her family made many plans. She participated fully in planning for a future when she would not have capacity. Dennis had more significant impairment than Sarah when the options counselor first met with him and his family. At that time, his capacity for making rational decisions was questionable. However, through encouragement from the options counselor, his daughters were able to work with Dennis to set up legal, financial, and health documents. He even visited a couple of assisted living facilities when his daughter needed some respite. This experience provided his daughters with a good sense of where he would be most comfortable if they felt they could no longer support him at home. Martha's situation was more challenging. She had no family or other informal support and had made no arrangements in advance. By the time she became involved with services and supports through the ADRC, her decision-making capacity was clearly compromised. Throughout this module, we will describe the advanced planning process used in each of these stories. Capacity to make decisions and participate in advanced planning is an issue. For people with dementia in the United States, autonomy is typically valued. Remember, though, the desire for autonomy and its value to an individual is influenced by culture and family tradition. In these stories, the desire for and value placed on autonomy is high. Research tells us that well-being is better when the older adult, including those with dementia, is involved in making decisions that affect his or her life. Yet, with dementia, the ability to make informed and reasoned decisions is increasingly impaired. Therefore, when talking about advanced planning, it is important to consider the capacity of the individual to plan and to make decisions that will be to his or her best interests and will be consistent with previously expressed values and preferences. Essentially, capacity is the ability to understand and appreciate the consequences of one's actions and to make rational decisions. Incapacitated is also a legal term, and it means that the person has a condition in which a person's ability to receive and evaluate information effectively or to communicate decisions is impaired to such an extent that the person lacks the capacity to meet the essential requirements for the person's physical health or safety. The ability to make decisions varies from one situation to another. Areas of decision-making include medical and health, financial capacity, driving, living arrangements, and everyday decision-making. A person can be legally incapacitated in some areas and not others. For example, a person with dementia may not be able to manage a checkbook or make investment decisions, but he or she can make decisions about what groceries to buy. Almost everybody has the capacity to make decisions about how they spend their time. Similarly, people with dementia may not be able to make arrangements for home maintenance, but may have the capacity to live alone successfully because they can handle all of their activities of daily living and have adequate supports in place. Legal capacity requirements can vary from one legal document to another. Most people go through the dementia trajectory without ever being legally declared incapacitated. As we move through this module, we will return to the issue of capacity and decision-making. Planning for a time when you or someone you love will not have capacity to make decisions about health care and quality of life is difficult. It is hard to think about, much less talk about. Fortunately, many resources are available to guide and support individuals and families through this process. The Conversation Project is one of these tools. Some of the things for the person with dementia to think about early in the disease is how they wish to live and who they want to tell about their wishes. Also, each person needs to think about the best time to have this conversation with others who are important to them. It might be at a large family gathering, or it might be a quiet one-on-one talk. The place for the discussion is important. It might be in the person's home, or in a more neutral space such as a park or coffee shop. The best time and location for each person will be different. It is best if the person can think ahead and plan the most important things they wish to convey. Writing notes ahead of time to remind you what you want to say can be quite helpful. Among the tools from the Conversation Project are some suggested conversation starters, such as, I need your help with something. I need to think about the future. Will you help me? I just answered some questions about how I want the end of my life to be. I want you to see my answers, and I'm wondering what your answers would be. This information was very useful for Sarah. After the meeting with the options counselor, she read through these materials and jotted notes. She found her daughter to be the most receptive to the conversation and went through many of these questions with her. In contrast to Sarah's family, where she had to overcome the resistance of her husband to talk about advanced planning and end-of-life decisions, Dennis's daughters struggled at first to have a conversation with each other, and then to come up with ways to have the conversation with Dennis. Sophia, the options counselor, again was a helpful facilitator. Discussion of these issues became part of the commitment and implementation planning processes described in Modules 5 and 6. Dennis's daughters found these suggestions about having difficult conversations helpful. Don't wait for a crisis. Do some research first. Talk with other family members and seek agreement on general issues to address. And figure out how to maintain communication. They planned ahead and thought about when, where, and how it would be best to talk with Dennis. They practiced conversations. They anticipated multiple discussions. They realized that these conversations would unfold over time and that they would focus mostly on things that were important to him. An additional tip they found was that during the conversation, you can make it your problem. Quote, Dad, I'm really worried about you and I can't sleep. Emphasize support for self-determination. Quote, we know it's important for you to stay at home and we want to figure out how to do that. And make it a team effort. We're all in this together. Sarah and Bill's options counselor told them about the Alzheimer's Association website and recommended that they explore the I Have Alzheimer's page. Sarah and Bill were able to access this site through the ADRC Alzheimer's webpage. Included on this site is information about legal, financial, building a care team to support the person with dementia, and end-of-life care. This was especially helpful and empowering for Sarah because the site was developed by and for people with dementia. Let's listen as some individuals on this website talk about the importance of planning.